Some stories start as whispers told around campfires or pass between kids on playgrounds, but sometimes those urban legends turn out to be horrifyingly real. These aren't made-up tales, these are true stories that prove some legends walk amongst us. Rats in the toilet bowl. Now, it's in the middle of the night, you stumble to the bathroom, half asleep, flip up the toilet lid, and staring back at you from the water is a living, hissing rat. It sounds like a nightmare, right? But this urban legend has been proven true time and time again. Rats really can swim through sewer pipes. They can navigate, bends in the plumbing and emerge straight through your toilet. So in countless cities around the world, plumbers have confirmed cases of residents finding live rats splashing in their bowls, especially in older buildings where the pipes are connected directly to the main sewer lines. Rats are built for this. They can tread water for days. They can hold their breath for minutes at a time and flatten their bodies so tight to squeeze through openings barely larger than a quarter. Once they sense food or even just the warmth of a home, they'll follow the trail right up the pipe system. New York City sanitation workers have documented rats traveling the length of entire buildings through pipes, emerging in bathrooms like something out of a horror movie. One resident recalled hearing splashing, looking down, and then locking eyes with a rat clawing its way out. That's terrifying. It's the kind of legend that used to make people laugh, but until you realize it can happen anywhere, even to you. And that faint gurgle in your pipes, well, maybe it isn't the plumbing after all. So next time you're on the toilet, just take a double look. Cropsey, the Staten Island boogeyman. Now, for decades, Staten Island children were terrified of one name, Cropsey. Now, parents warned their kids not to wander off, saying that, Cropsey would snatch them from the woods. He was actually said to be a deformed madman living in the tunnels of an abandoned asylum. But Cropsey wasn't just a story. No. In the 1970s and the 1980s, a real man named Andre Rand stalked the same woods that inspired this legend. Rand had once worked as a custodian at the Willowbrook State School, a massive and nightmarish institution for children with disabilities. Now, after the school shut down, he began living in a very makeshift kind of campsite around the decaying property. Over time, children began to just disappear. One by one, families searched, communities panicked, and the whispers of, Cropsey started to spread. Then, in 1987, the body of a 12-year-old girl named Jennifer Schwieger was found buried near the ruins of Willowbrook. Rand was arrested for her abduction and later convicted. Now, locals were horrified at how closely the details of that legend matched reality. A deranged man, an abandoned institution, children vanishing in the middle of the night. The stories they once told to scare kids into coming home at before dark or before the lights went off were suddenly horrifyingly real. For those who grew up in Staten Island, Cropsey wasn't just a bedtime story anymore. He was the man who lived just beyond the tree line, and he was very real. The Leaping Lawyer of Toronto. Now, it started as an office party trick. A lawyer wanted to prove just how strong the skyscraper windows were in his building. So, in front of literally everybody, he ran full force like Naruto ran and slammed his body against the glass. It didn't break. He laughed. Everyone laughed. It kind of became like his little signature stunt, like a little party trick, until one day it literally took his life. So his name was Gary Hoy. He was a very respected attorney in Toronto. On a summer afternoon back in 1993 during a tour for visiting law students, he basically decided again he was going to show off, this unbreakable window once again. He threw himself against the 24th floor glass, and as before, the pane didn't shatter. But this time, the entire window frame popped out of the wall. So Hoy plunged 24 stories to his demise. Engineers later confirmed that the glass itself hadn't broken. It did hold perfectly, so he wasn't wrong there. The frame just simply failed, pulling clean out of its casing. One freak accident, but the result was a horror story that spread like wildfire. I remember hearing about it and not even believing it, but it really is real, and the legend of the lawyer who threw himself through a window to prove how strong it was, became one of those stories that everyone repeats, but this one wasn't exaggerated. Like literally every word of it is true. And if you grew up in Toronto, I'm sure you've heard of it. The body under the bed. A couple checks into a cheap hotel, so we'll call it a motel. Everything seems fine until a very strange smell fills the room. Now they complain to the front desk, who then sends someone to kind of go spray some air freshener, like, a quick cover up. This smell lingers obviously because those don't work. And eventually one of them looks under the bed and screams. Underneath the mattress lies a deceased body. This story is so shocking that most people assume it's an urban legend, but it's happened repeatedly in real life across multiple hotels, motels, and cities. One of the most infamous cases took place in Memphis, Tennessee, when the body of a missing woman was found stuffed inside the bed frame of a budget lodge room weeks after she disappeared. Now, guests had slept in the same room for days and weeks, sometimes even complaining about the odor without realizing what was beneath them. Another similar discovery happened in Las Vegas, where a couple noticed a very foul smell in their motel room. When cleaning staff lifted the mattress, they uncovered a corpse wrapped in plastic. These are not isolated incidents, unfortunately. They're reoccurring horrors that prove that this legend has a lot of truth to it. I mean, the thought alone is sickening. Like, how many times have travelers unknowingly slept inches above a hidden crime scene? So next time you check into a hotel and the room smells, a little off, maybe take a look under the bed. I mean, I know I'll be doing that going forward. The Hermit of the North Pond. Now, in the woods of Maine, campers whispered about a shadow that moved between the trees at night. Someone or something was stealing food, stealing flashlights, batteries, etc. Locals called him the North Pond Hermit. Now, for years, it was dismissed as folklore. But then in 2013, police caught him. His name was actually Christopher Knight, and he had been living alone in the forest for, get this, nearly 27 years. Yes, 27 years without speaking to another person ever, surviving entirely by sneaking into cabins and campsites, stealing just enough food and supplies to live, like canned goods, propane, clothing, tools, like whatever he could basically get his hands on. Residents would arrive for the summer and find their cupboards empty or their batteries just mysteriously gone and missing. I mean, some just kind of thought it was raccoons, maybe a bear, others swore that it was probably a ghost. I mean, in truth, it was literally just a man who had vanished from society at the age of 20 and somehow managed to stay hidden for almost 3 decades. That's insane. When he was finally arrested, police found a very elaborate hidden camp deep in the woods, complete with a tent, shelves, books, and even cooking supplies. Knight admitted that, he committed over 1,000 burglaries during his time in isolation. Now, for generations, locals had warned each other about the man in the woods. They said he watched campers as they slept, which is terrifying. And they said he came out, but only at night. And they were right. I mean, the legend of the Hermit wasn't just true, it was, standing in handcuffs, kind of blinking into the daylight for the first time in a quarter century. Let me know your thoughts on all of this and which urban legend shocked you the most, or maybe not at all. But either way, I'm your host, Ashley. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. These banned religious texts the church tried hard to destroy. Well, guess what? Not hard enough. Buckle up, friends. Let's get into it. The tomb in the desert. This is the Nag Hammadi. Now, this is in 1945. A farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Saman was digging near the Egyptian town of Nag Hammadi when his blade hit something hard on a sealed clay jar, nearly a meter tall. Fearing it might contain a jinn, a spirit, he hesitated. The curiosity won. He cracked it open. Inside were 13 leather-bound papyrus books, written in Coptic, wrapped in linen, and buried deep under rock and sand. He had no idea what he was holding. One of the most, it was so explosive. It was one of the most archaeological discoveries in Christian history, a hidden library of lost gospels that the early church had tried to erase. Now, when scholars finally studied the text, they were stunned. These weren't copies of Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. They were alternate versions of early Christianity, long suppressed and labeled hearsay.